What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another great episode of Facts and Stats. It is now episode 77. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and tell everybody about everything that we have going on here at Facts and Stats. Now, to my right, I have a special guest. I'm going to allow him to introduce himself, and we're going to go ahead and get started.
Hi, my name is Alex Sturm. I'm an NBA and Brooklyn Nets writer for Nets Daily, and I'm here ready to talk some NBA trade deadline. Super excited. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you so much for coming on, Alec. So you said you're with Nest Daily. I just want to ask you a couple questions so everyone that watches the episode can see who you are and maybe even give you a follow as well and keep up with you. So how did you get into being on the Nest Daily team and things like that?
That's a great question. I was an NBA fan and Nets fan for a while, and then I met some people honestly on social media who started to tour writing and then told me I should try writing, and from there I just moved my way up in the ranks and met some great people here in Nets Daily.
Okay, great to hear that. Speaking of the Nets, we're going to speak on a player that played for the Nets about 2 years ago, but obviously he had to get traded away due to the Nets wanting James Harden. Karis LeVert is now headed to Indiana. I'm not sorry, he's now headed to Cleveland, pairing up in the backcourt with Darius Garland. What's your thoughts on that trade?
Well, I think it makes a lot of sense for both sides. The Pacers are moving towards a rebuild and got some extra draft capital from the Cavs. We sent them a first, some really good seconds, I think. And on the Cavs side, the ones who are actually getting the talent here, they really had the hole in their backcourt after losing Colin Sexton and Ricky Rubio to season-ending injuries. I think Levert, even though he's a bit of a ball stopper, he really can score. He can really put up shots for you, and he's an initiator, a creator, someone who can do something with the ball in their hands. That's something that Cleveland really needs.
So Cleveland is now in the midst of they're in a tough situation. I don't think that they expected to be at the fifth seed, 50 plus games into the season. So now, what would you rate, or what do you think would be a successful season to them? Getting out of the first round, or just making the playoffs and being able to have that experience under their belt?
Oh, I mean, I think Cleveland has had a great season up to this point. They're like I think fourth or fifth seed in the East,
Yeah.
and they've wildly overperformed expectations. For them, getting out of the first round would be awesome. I think just making the playoffs at this point, like they're going to make the playoffs, but just making the playoffs is a big success for them, especially with the injuries that they've had to overcome. If they're able to get out the first round, if they're playing someone like Philly or Toronto or Boston, maybe they could pull it off. I think so.
Okay, well said. Quick switch. A trade that I did not see coming. CJ McCullum is now headed to the New Orleans Pelicans. It was about time that Portland shakes up that backcourt. And headed to the Blazers is Josh Hart and draft compensation. It also was Nikhil Alexander Walker along that trade as well, but he got shipped out to somewhere else now, Utah. So CJ is now going to be pairing with Brandon Ingram, Devontae Graham, Jonas Valanciunas, who's having a good season, and Zion. If he does come back this season, they plan on making a push for that playing spot. What's your thoughts on Blazers' future looking going forward, and then the Pelicans going forward as well?
I think a lot of people are a little curious what the Blazers' strategy is right now. They've sold off a lot of pieces so far this deadline. They sold off CJ McCollum and Robert Covington last week, and they're not getting awesome returns for them. I mean, I trust that they're kind of going through the league and looking what they can get from each team and taking the best offer, usually offers that have a lot of draft assets in them, and working towards a bit of a retool, rebuild situation.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the Blazers know that they could have gotten a lot more in return if they had traded a guy like CJ McCollum a year or two earlier. And people have been calling them and people have been calling for them to split up that Dame and CJ backcourt for a little bit now.
Right.
So I think there are some regrets there.
So, just you personally, though, although Dame said time and time again he would love to stay in Portland, what's your thoughts on his loyalty to the city? Do you would like to see him elsewhere, or do you think he should just go ahead and stay there like as he wants?
I think even though you see the Blazers positioning themselves for kind of a worse draft asset or a better draft pick, a
Mm-hmm.
worse spot in the standings, they're trying to keep Dame involved as much as they can. They're talking to him. He's been influenced on all of these moves. He knows the plan is to be bad this year and to use that like good pick and all these new picks coming in to get better players for the push next year once he's back from his injury. And another part of all these moves the Blazers are making is they're clearing up a lot of cap space.
Right.
Joe Ingles, who they acquired today in a trade with Utah, is an expiring contract.
Right.
So he get his money comes off the books. That's like 10 million more dollars for them to be able to spend. And I guess they're going to go after some big stars to pair with Dame. So for now, looks like they want him around.
And to piggyback off everything you just said, I do hope it works out. Like you said last week, Powell and Covington, they got shipped away. I think they're actually going to probably try to look into trading Nurkic as well. If not this deadline, probably in the offseason, just so just clear more things out. Portland just go ahead and have all those max spaces and things like that to try to get anybody that would like to play with Dame in Portland. And we're going to stay on the West Side really quickly, Alec. A trade that I did not see coming at all. Kings fans didn't see it coming. I don't think they even wanted to trade him.
No.
Yeah, Tyrese Halliburton is now headed to Indiana with Buddy Hield and Tristan Thompson, and headed to Sacramento with Sabonis and Jeremy Lamb and Justin Holiday. What's your thoughts on that trade, and who do you think, if you had to choose, won that trade?
Who do I think won the trade? I think that's a little self-explanatory. I think the Pacers won that trade in a pretty big way.
But can you elaborate, please? I just don't agree with that. Can you elaborate?
You don't agree? Okay, no, that's fair. That's fair.
Okay.
I think Sabonis is really good. I
Right.
really do. People like to give him crap because he's. I mean, if we're being honest, he's like a tall white European center, and people are like, oh, he can't really defend,
Right.
and he can't. I mean, he's not all that great on defense, but he's a two-time All-Star. I think he's super underrated. He's what I would call like a hub of offense, where you can give it to him in the high post, and he can pass, he can facilitate, he can drive, he can shoot a little bit. With that being said, I mean, Tyrese Halliburton has been so good
So good
for the
this year,
Kings.
yeah.
He's shooting. I think he's shooting 41%. It's either on threes or off the catch, and his shot is a little unorthodox, but he can step back. He's shown really good signs as a playmaker, as a facilitator. He doesn't get downhill too well, but everything else he can score all around, and he's such a great defender. And I think most of all, honestly, he's a guy who wanted to be on the Kings.
Yeah,
Like there have been reports that he wanted to get drafted by the Kings. I've never heard of that happening before. I'm not that old. The Kings have been bad my entire life. I've never heard of someone who wanted to draft by the Kings. So for them to give up on Tyrese Halliburton, I don't get it. Like Sabonis is great, but with him, what is their ceiling? Like
Right.
an eighth seed, maybe a playing team at best. They're not going to be top six.
Right, exactly, and I agree with that. And they just basically told Harrison Barnes. Rumors came out today that they plan on keeping him because they want to make that play in spot push. Now, here's why I sort of kind of love the trade for both sides. I don't think it's an exact winner because, like you said, you hit on the nose everything about Sabonis. Heck of a player. He can literally do it all on the offensive side of the end, and he's not a pushover on the defensive side of the ball either. I think this is a great for De'Aaron Fox. Why I support the trade, because I don't think De'Aaron Fox and Tyrese Halliburton had that much of a potential to take a team over the top in the backcourt. Sort of kind of like Dame and CJ, and I'll explain why. Because Tyrese Halliburton is a point guard. You already touched on all his floor general and things like that, things that he do with the ball. De'Aaron Fox is also a point guard. Now, you can say you can play one or the other off of the ball, but can you really play one or the other off the ball where they're going to be extremely effective? Now, you touched on Tyrese Halliburton being able to spot up and shoot, and 40% from there as well. But you just have that all. Whenever you have a chance to get an all-star to sort of kind of change your franchise and put them in a better position to win ball games potentially. Not saying Tyrese Halliburton is not going to be an all-star. I'm sure he's going to reach that in Indiana pretty soon. I just think they made a right move to sort of kind of shake things up. And you still have Davion Mitchell, who I like. Heck of a player, good defender. He can play. He been playing pretty good since De'Aaron Fox been out prior to last night. So I love the trade. I don't think it's a set winner in that trade. I think that it's pretty good. Anytime you get a chance to get some bonus, you do it. In Indiana, anytime you get a chance to get a young guard in Halliburton and pairing with Dorte, you do it as well. They're going to trade Brogdon this offseason, and I'm looking forward to how both teams shape out.
Yeah, I agree that Fox and Halliburton isn't the greatest duo. I think I would have just moved Fox instead of Halliburton, honestly.
but see, tell me why you think that you'll move Fox over Halliburton, though. I'm a big Fox fan, so I'm putting the bias aside a little bit. I've been supporting him since Kentucky in high school. So just tell me why you feel like you will move Fox over Halliburton.
Well, Fox was really good to finish the year last year. Like he was shooting the best of time of his career. but he's been really cold to start this year.
Yeah, he has.
I say to start, we're like 50 games in.
Hmm.
There isn't that much time left.
Right.
Like, I don't think he's a great jump shooter, and a point guard in this league, you need to be a pretty good jump shooter. His his defense has been solid. His playmaking has been solid. He's still a downhill threat, but at a certain point, that jump shot seems limited. And I don't think he's elite enough at any other skill to make him worth that contract and to make him a leading point guard man on a playoff team.
Okay. What we'll say. I mean, I can't really, we're gonna have to agree to disagree on that. I can't really say too much about that. I like the trade for both sides, and I see why you say you like it more for Indiana getting Halliburton. What I really, really want to talk to you about, and man, I was so happy when the trade went down. James Harden heading to Brooklyn, Levert and Jerry Allen went out, and now it's so much going around Brooklyn and Philadelphia and what's going to happen and things like that. So you give me your insight, Alec. You're with Nets Daily. What would you like to see happen for Brooklyn? Did you ever support the move with James Harden coming to Brooklyn? And what's your whole thoughts on that right now?
Well, I think it's interesting you bring that up because even with James Harden seemingly wanting out, wanting to go to Philly, I don't think you can really ever say that the initial trade was a mistake.
Right.
The Nets brought in James Harden. They gave up Karis LeVert, Jared Allen, a lot of draft capital.
Hmm.
But I mean, last year when they were healthy, they were the best team in the league. They barely lost to the Bucks, and they were super injured.
Right.
Like I think they would have steamed through the league, steamed through the postseason, the playoffs if they had everyone available. So it's revisionist history to say, oh, that was a mistake. No, it wasn't a mistake. But James Harden kind of I mean, man, he's put the Nets in a really tough spot, if we're being honest here. He wants to go to Philly. I think he's made that pretty clear, right?
Yeah.
And the Nets, this has been bubbling for a while. For a while, it kind of looked like it was just Harden, or not Harden, Philly and Daryl Morey, the GM of the Sixers, being like, oh, there are rumors that James Harden, Philly, oh, Sixers getting him in the offseason. And everyone's like, oh, that's just Daryl. But
Yeah.
no, it seems pretty real now.
Yeah.
So the Sixers and the Nets have been doing a lot of these like trade talks through the media, not speaking so directly. I think now in the last 24 hours until the deadline, things are really picking up.
So obviously the rumors around Ben Simmons, Maxey, who they seem not to want to part with, Seth Curry, Thibault. What would your ideal trade be if you were to trade James Harden to Brooklyn? What would you? I mean, to Philly. What would you like to see Brooklyn get back in return?
I think the Nets would love Tyrese Maxey, but like that's from a from a negotiation standpoint, that's really where they want to start. Because the way these negotiation works is the Nets will say something, oh, we want Tyrese Maxey, we want Ben Simmons, obviously, and we want a bunch of picks too.
Hmm.
And the Sixers will say, well, we want to give you Danny Green. And then from there, you need to meet in the middle somewhere.
Right.
And I think what's going to happen is they're going to meet in the middle. And that's what get Ben Simmons, probably Seth Curry, and then maybe Matisse Thybulle, maybe some picks.
Hmm.
That last part's a bit fuzzy. So I think they'll meet in the middle somewhere there.
Now, if that trade were to go down by tomorrow, the trade deadline, which team do you think? And that's sort of kind of in the same area in the standings right now. Which team do you think will have the better outlook for the season to potentially win it all or to make the finals at least?
That's a good question. I think if the Nets get Curry, Max, Curry, Thibault, Simmons, and a pick, I think they might be better suited off. You also need to see what they do other than the Harden trade, honestly, because the Nets are going to have Joe Harris's money. They're going to have Nick Claxton, who they are like trading. They have, and they're going to have a few firsts. They're going to have some real draft assets to make happen after the trade. I know the Nets ownership, they're aggressive. They want to win this year. So I would expect there are more moves coming from Brooklyn, even after this Harden deal. I'd be surprised if there weren't. And I think you can expect a Sixers move too, even after a Harden deal,
Right.
because they need to start to build this core around Harden and Embiid, like so stylistically different.
Mhm.
They need to really fill out that roster with shooters, especially if they lose Seth Curry.
Okay, so a couple more questions in regard to this Nets and Sixers situation. What's the percentage do you think a deal gets done around Harden and Ben Simmons?
I've gone and asked this a few times this week. I think, I think we're at like 75, 80,
Ooh.
80%. Oh yeah, I think it's high. I
Ooh.
am I am confident this deal happens. I'm confident this still gets done. There's been too much smoke for too long
Right.
for something to not happen at all, honestly.
Now,
Like,
now
yeah,
let's
that's it.
rewind. We know the big three hasn't played over 20 to 30 games together. Where do you think everything went wrong at? Like, why is James Harden wanting to come to Brooklyn and then now wanting to leave Brooklyn?
I think James Harden was all in, and he loved it in Brooklyn because he had two superstars playing next to him. And then he showed up to media day in September, and Kyrie Irving was not there.
Mm,
And Kyrie Irving was not there because he chose not to be there.
right.
And I think that's when Harden was like, okay, I think I need to start thinking about because Harden, this is something the Nets fan base talked about back in the playoffs when James Harden played with that grade 2 hamstring injury. We saw him on the court; he did not look like himself, but he was fighting through it.
Right.
Kyrie Irving was also seriously hurt, sitting on the bench. You can't fault him for being hurt and sitting on the bench. That's what normal people do. But Harden will do anything to win, except play defense. But Harden will do anything to win. He's a fighter. He he yearns for that championship so hard. So when you go and one of your teammates, one of your star teammates, one of the reasons that you came to the Nets just
Mm-hmm.
isn't playing, doesn't feel like it because he also doesn't want to get a shot. It's like I mean, it's a vaccine. Like what?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that makes you reconsider. And then you have Daryl Morey and you have Tad Brown, who used to work for Houston, has a close relationship. Michael Rubin, you have Meek Mill, you have Lil Baby. I mean, I'm being serious.
Yeah, you're
You
being
have
real.
these
You're being real.
people,
You're
you
being
have these
real.
people in Philly who are like, hey James, Joel Embiid's putting up an MVP season. We've got Ben Simmons. We can make this happen.
Mm-hmm.
Daryl's your guy. Maybe Mike D'Antoni's on the way.
Yeah.
Like James Harden's like, okay, why not?
Why not? Right. Right. Why
Why
not?
not?
It, it's gonna be very very interesting. And my comments on it. I was speaking in a couple of spaces within the past 7 days, and I love the trade for both sides. I more so love it for Brooklyn because I think it's a win-win situation no matter what in Brooklyn. Brooklyn, especially if they would somehow some way get Ben and Thibault, that's a super plus. And there also was a rumor with Andre Drummond, who I think I can't sit here today and say he's better than Nick Claxton, but he has more experience and he may be a better rebounder and things like that. But if you were to add Ben Simmons and Thibault, that can make that Brooklyn team a very, very, very scary. I just think that in those games where Kyrie Irving can't play, where's the offense going to come from? That's why they need a Seth Curry. If they can get Maxey, they can get a Tyrese Maxey who can take some of that load off of Kevin Durant when playoff time comes around and Kyrie's not on the floor. We're not, and I can't sit here and say Ben Simmons is going to be an offensive threat. I will hope so, but I can't sit here and say he's going to be that 20 to 25, 15, 18 point per game guy. But I love it for Brooklyn. I hope it does get done. I even like it for James Harden because James Harden and Embiid will be pretty scary in my opinion as well. And I'm interested to see what they do with Tobias, who they have on the market for sure. So
Well, if I can jump in, that's Tobias' situation is it's a big deal when it comes to this move.
mhm.
The Sixers are trying to dump Tobias Harris' contract to Oklahoma because we know OKC has a lot of cap space, are always willing to take on some picks. Um, and if they do that, if Philly's off of Tobias Harris's money, then they have the threat really of saying, hey, we can sign James Harden outright
Outright, yeah,
in the offseason.
right.
And I mean, that's really scary to the Nets. That's like, oh, we don't even get Ben Simmons back. Like, we just get nothing. And so then they
That's
really have to act.
See, that's why I think Brooklyn has to do the move because, as we all know, this offseason, Kyrie and Kevin Durant both signed extensions. But James Harden was, not so. I never tested for agency. I want to test it. That right there would tell me, like, how do you not sign an extension to play with your boys? Him and Kyrie wasn't as close, but him and Harden go back to OKC, obviously. I just feel like he's always on the outside looking in when it comes to Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, the same way Kevin Durant felt in Golden State and originally why he left. So
Well, Kyrie didn't even sign an extension. It's
he
just
still,
KD.
but Kyrie still has about 3 or 2 left, or he's not unrestricted after the season.
He's a player option.
He's a player option after
He
the season. Okay,
and if he declines that player option, he can just go. And
right.
it's not that he would go. The question is, do the Nets want him? Um, because I think Kyrie will be a full-time player pretty soon. I think he'll be able to play home games. The laws in New York are changing when it comes to mask mandates and vaccine mandates. But there's a lot of unhappiness in the Nets organization regarding Kyrie Irving.
Seriously?
Well,
I mean, I
yeah.
can see why, but you would want them to move on from Kyrie Irving?
Kyrie Irving brings a lot of drama and has since the beginning of his Brooklyn tenure. If they lose in the first or second round this year and Kyrie Irving didn't play in home games in the playoffs,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
could see them being like, Kai, and they were good.
So, so do you hate this for Kevin Durant? Like, what's your thoughts on the Kevin Durant? It, it's
Well, Kevin Durant, Kyrie is Kevin Durant's boy.
right.
Like we know that. Those were always the two. James Harden was the third guy kind of joining them. But Kyrie and KD was those were the two peas in the pod, really, if you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
So Kyrie, if there's ever any question, I'll be texting reporters about like, oh, if this happens, where do you think KD will stand? And the answer is always KD will stand with Kyrie. No matter what happens,
Right.
he's gonna stand with Kyrie. But at a certain point, KD's not the owner. KD's not the general manager. Even though he plays general manager, he's not the owner. He's not Joe Tsai. Joe Tsai has been outspoken about his support for vaccination, and I wouldn't be surprised if some of these repeated issues from Kyrie pose a problem this offseason.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Alec, for speaking on the Nets and giving your Nets insight. I have a couple more questions for you before we wrap this episode up, and I just want to touch on it. I think it's a solid move. The Utah Jazz, they're getting to kill Alexander Walker to bolster their bench a little bit. 13 point per game score. He's going to be coming off the bench with Jordan Clarkson. Do you see that being a good move for them? Any changes or any thoughts on that?
That was a surprising move, Nikhil Alexander Walker to Utah. I guess he plays a little bit of a backup role. I don't see them moving Jordan Clarkson. I guess if they did, actually, I take that back. I would understand logic to see them moving Jordan Clarkson. They can really use a perimeter stopper. That's something that Rudy Gobert has asked for a lot this year, and he's right. They need one. They need two or three.
Yeah.
um, so I also wouldn't be surprised to see Nikhil Alexander Walker on the move again.
Mm,
Actually,
okay.
like yeah, because if someone else wants him, the Jazz, he's not a great perimeter stopper either. So whatever they can do to fill that hole and really get who they can get and who they need on that team, I think they're going to try to do that.
Okay.
I was surprised they couldn't get a little more for Joe Ingles' expiring contract. That's pretty valuable, but so be it.
Okay. I love to ask all my guests this question. I just like to see what their overall outlook is of the NBA, such as final matchups and things they would like to see. So first, before I get to that, what was your initial reaction? Initial reaction when Russell Westbrook got traded to the Lakers this offseason?
When Westbrook got traded to the Lakers, so he got traded from the Wizards to the Lakers. I think it had been rumored for a few days.
Okay.
I think so. I think we kind of knew it was coming.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to remember. We knew it was coming, and I never thought that it was a good move for the Lakers. I Smart people who watch more basketball than me. I try to watch all basketball, but there are always people who watch more.
Hmm.
You're like, I don't think this is a good move for the Lakers either. Westbrook was never someone who fit the profile of the kind of star you want next to LeBron James or Anthony Davis for that matter, really. And I think I was proven right. It hasn't worked.
So if Russell Westbrook does not get traded by tomorrow, which I don't think will happen, do you think that the Lakers have any shot to make it to the finals again?
No.
Okay. And now, thanks for the straightforward answer. Now, my next question to you is: we have the Suns playing phenomenal basketball, looking like the best team in basketball. You have the Warriors, Klay Thompson back. He's up in his game. He's balling as of late. Who do you think is going to make the finals in the Western Conference?
That's good. I think I think if I think a sleeper team actually we should be paying attention on is if Kawhi Leonard and Paul George can come back healthy.
Mm,
I think you really have to look at the Clippers as a team. You also can't ignore the Nuggets
the
based
Nuggets,
on
yeah, yeah.
Jamal Murray's coming back. I don't know if Michael Porter Jr. where he is, but those two can be a real threat. The Suns have been good. They've proven they can make the finals last year. I think they were exposed a little bit by the Bucks, if I'm being honest, but they're clearly a top heavy guy. They're clearly a top heavy team. Ultimately, though, I think I would say Golden State. There's just too much proven talent there. They have the superstar level player, the top five guy in Steph Curry. Draymond Green should be back this year.
Yeah.
James Wiseman might not be, but that's okay. They don't need Wiseman just yet.
Well, good news. Good
Warriors are
news.
my pick.
Good news is, sorry to cut you off. Good news is James Wiseman did do 3-on-3 practice this week, so he is coming. I do expect him to play sort of kind of end of February, in that range, in that ballpark. So who I didn't hear your clear pick. Who do you have making the final? The Warriors or the Suns? I'm sorry.
I think I'll pick the
You
Warriors.
picked the Warriors, okay. And then for the Eastern Conference, who you going with?
I think right now you got to go with the Bucks in the East.
Do you think
I don't,
Miami? I've been hearing Chicago. I'm not a fan of Chicago making a big run. I'm not. I don't really think they're that team to me. But what about Miami, Philly, any other team
I
in the
don't
East?
think Miami has it in them either, honestly. I don't think they have the top level talent. That's something I really look for and value, honestly, in the postseason.
Yeah.
Milwaukee has struggled as of late, but I think they proved a lot in the postseason last year. They have the championship experience, the championship equity, as people like to say. I think they're ready for another run.
So when you say championship experience, you mean just making the finals, correct?
Well, Milwaukee, they're the champs.
Right. So just 2 seasons ago, the Miami Heat also were the Eastern Conference champs. So what makes you think they're so far off when it comes to getting back to that? Unless you're discrediting the bubble basketball, which some people do.
I think I kind of do. I honestly, I think I kind of do. I say, look, it was the bubble. Um, did Milwaukee sweep Miami last year?
They did.
Like,
They did.
that's a more recent version.
But see, we all understand Milwaukee swept Miami, but what did Milwaukee do to sweep Miami? They retooled their roster. They added Drew Holiday. They had Forbes, who almost outscored Jimmy Butler. They added Bobby Portis. Now, what did Miami do to retool their roster this season coming around? You add Kyle Lowry. You add Oladipo, who's gonna be back soon. And all the PJ Tucker from Milwaukee. Markeith Morris, who may not come back this season, but just throwing out some names. So why do you think that Miami, Kyle Lowry and Depot, when he is back, if he even if he's half of the player the way where you know he could be, why do you think Miami can make that serious run? They have their top 10 in offense and defense.
Oh, I do think they can make the run. If I had to rank East favorites, man, put Bucks, Nets, and Heat, and probably the Bulls, unless I'm forgetting anyone. But I think the Heat are right there. I just haven't seen them prove it yet.
Okay.
If there's two teams that both look really good, and one of them is an NBA champion, one of them is a bubble champion, not even. I'm gonna pick the Bucks. I think they have the top five guy too. I think they have Giannis, who's looked even better this year and has added a jump shot. The thing we saw the Heat do when they beat Milwaukee was they did that wall in the
Wall.
playoffs,
Yeah.
right? Build a wall, three guys out with their arms out, and I think Milwaukee more than even like Bryn Forbes beat them last year,
Yeah.
but that was because of the shooting. Like it wasn't Bryn Forbes. Like
Mhm.
he's a good shooter. That's kind of it. The Bucks have added more shooting with Portis, with Grayson Allen, DiVincenzo. They're ready for the wall. I don't think it's gonna beat them anymore.
Okay. My last couple questions to you before I go ahead and let you go. Thank you again. Who do you have winning the Rookie of the Year and why? Most Improved Player of the Year and why? And then one of the deepest races we ever seen for the MVP in a long time. Who do you have winning the MVP this season and why? You can start with Rookie of the Year.
Well, rookie of the year, I think you've got to give it to Evan Mobley. A lot of rookies have had great years this year. Mobley's one of them. There's Cade Cunningham. There's why is his name losing me? There's Scotty Barnes. There's Franz Wagner on the Magic.
Mhm.
But Mobley is the only one of those guys that I just listed who's really elevated his team into a winner. Like the Cavs are a good team this year. You look at their net rating, I think they're first or second in the East. That's a serious playoff contender. And Mobley's been a beast on both sides of the floor. His impact on the floor with Jared Allen at the same time cannot be understated. I think he's a clear rookie of the year to me.
Okay. And what about the Most Improved Player?
Most improved player is tough.
I think
There's,
you have Tyler Hero, Desmond Bain. Some even said John Morant. So who do you think is going to take that award?
I think I might give it. I think you got to throw Tyrese Maxey in there.
Yeah,
I
Maxi.
might give it. I might give it to Jonte Murray. First time All Star this year, named as a replacement. But I've been watching Murray for a long time, and it seemed kind of grow as like Tony Parker's replacement
Hmm.
off the bench, third stringer, to who he is now. His jump shot's taking a leap every single year, taking a step every single year. And now he's really someone you can't afford to go under against on screens. He's a triple double threat every night, and he's bringing on both sides of the ball, getting his arms in passing lanes. He's a tough on ball defender. I'd give it to Jonte Murray.
Okay, I love that. I love that. And I missed the category six man of the year. If you don't mind chipping on that really quickly.
Six man of the year right now is kind of a race between Tyler Hero and Kevin Love. Honestly, two guys off the bench, love to shoot, kind of those microwave scorer
Yeah,
types. Yay, points for six man of the year.
yeah.
But I think it'll probably go to Tyler Hero. That's just who the voters like. Six man
Yeah.
shooting guard, brings buckets. Think of like Jamal Crawford, Lou Williams, even a guy like Manu Ginobili.
Hmm.
That's who people like for six man.
Yeah. Well said.
Kevin,
Okay.
it's been really nice to see Kevin Love in his resurgence.
Right, right. Definitely with that Cleveland team. And my famous question, MVP. Like I said, this race is very, very crazy. And I wish Kevin Durant didn't get hurt because it'll be more even insane. So, who do you have winning the MVP this season and why?
I think Joel Embiid will win. I think
Agree.
I think right now it's 2-3 man race. Embiid and Jokic back at it again.
Hmm.
And I think Jokic has probably had the better year, even just by a little bit. But Embiid's team is winning more. I think Embiid's about to pick up a running mate in Harden. And I think voters gave it to Jokic last year. They'll give it to Embiid this year.
Okay, I
Honestly,
love it.
that's
I sort of kind of agree. I definitely agree with the MVP pick. I love the DeJounte Murray most improved pick. That was a good one. My last question to you, Alec. If the Warriors and Bucks, your two final teams meet, both healthy, who do you have winning that series and why?
a good question. I think I think I'll pick the Bucks as a repeat champion.
Oh, wow.
As things stand right now, the Bucks look like the best, or it looks projected to be the best team to me. Giannis is a huge switching threat. I think that defense, it's not going to erase Steph Curry by any means, but can definitely neutralize the Warriors' supreme offensive attack. And I think the Warriors' defense, which has become really good in the past few years, just isn't built for the kind of versatility the Bucks have,
Hmm.
honestly.
Well said. Well, thank you so much, Alec, for coming on. Everyone, don't forget to drop a follow. His at name is on the screen for Twitter. He covers Nets daily. And do you have anything else to say before I let you go?
No, that's everything for me. Thank you so much, man.
All right, thank you guys.